Happy Monday, Robbie.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I'm just glad you're alive.
Well, I am alive. I'm just usually alive at different hours than you.
Yeah, that's well. That's not necessarily true because you said you were up early this morning, and I bet I was probably either up or close to being awake.
Yeah, I get in that gray zone, man.
I'm telling you, as we always say, there is nothing good about the gray zone.
I know it. You're right. I just cruise through the gray zone for a little while and ends up wiping me out. No, I was up late painting because I'm thinking about what can I do to make life better for our athletes today. That's the kind of thing I think about. So last night I was painting because I'm hosting athletes for the camp. Yeah, no, but I mean I'm happy about it. I just got carried away. I need a little discipline.
You do need. Hey, remember you got to recover.
Yeah, I do. That's true. I recovered hard.
Yeah, I can tell. How many coats are you on?
Oh man, the living room took 5 coats, but I got that done. I was in the bathroom last night.
Man, you were doing it. I can't wait to see it, man. I can't wait to see all the upgrades and looking forward to it. If you get excited about white paint, man. Hey, it doesn't take much to make something feel new.
Yeah, I know. The part that I hate about all this the most is when I moved in, everything was white, and then I went like on some crazy bachelor painting spree with like I don't even know why I use these colors. You know, it's like I'm gonna funk this place up and get it all funky, and then
get it all funky.
Yeah, I don't even. You know, I'm just saying.
How'd that work out with the ladies, by the way?
Well, it helped me break up with my long-term girlfriend, and eventually she just couldn't take it anymore. So now I'm living in a clean place and I'm single.
Amen. Officially.
Yeah.
Right. So our first off, 550 people picked the Final Four.
Wow.
And I'm just gonna say something real quick.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess that none of them that made that as their only bracket.
That's probably a pretty good bet.
Are you an only bracket guy or are you a multiple bracket guy?
Oh, I'm only one bracket.
See, me too. I don't get the I don't get the multiple. I mean, I get when you're trying to win, but it's just like at that point I find the investment you're not as invested. And it makes things less exciting, and it is exciting to watch. But yesterday seemed like a flashback to more of the usual servings that the tournament dishes out, and I thought that Kansas Duke game was great. It was good.
But the multiple bracket thing, I think you're onto something there. That's just so typical of what's going on these days. It's like those internet polls where you can vote as many times as you want.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's sort of a byproduct of you can't trust people anymore, so you might as well just let them vote multiple times.
It's true.
And the vote, what does that even mean? What does it mean if you did 100? I bet these are, honestly, not only multiple bracket guys or women, but I bet they're people that are like computer tech nerds that like do them automatically.
I for sure.
Computer brackets.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Although they could be Loyola fans.
That's true.
Because Michigan is legit, Kansas, and then Villanova.
Yeah, I mean it's a legit Final Four. It'll be fun to watch, but
I think Loyola can do it, dude.
Oof, it'll be tough if they. I think Nova has the most talent, but
Nova's like a machine. When they talk about they don't turn it over, they score a lot, they shoot great free throws, they're deep. They got the whole package, and I think Loyola's probably got the B package of Loyola or Villanova. Yeah. So we'll see, but it should be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. Will be fun to watch. So. First, thank you to everybody who has taken the time to review us on iTunes. We appreciate it. I know it takes time. out of your busy day of filling out multiple NCAA brackets. But in the middle of that, and during the middle of that, if you like or dislike or just love our podcast, we appreciate you leaving us a review. And you can always find us on iTunes and and rate us. It helps other athletes find us. And if you want to check out all things C26 Triathlon and Crushing Iron, you can always check out our website, crushingiron.com. You can find additional information on swim analysis, videos, instructional videos we've done, blog, race tribute videos, which are actually really awesome to watch. They're some things that Mike's been doing for the last 3 or 4 years, and they're really, really well done. And I know that a lot of athletes this time of year, as you get closer and closer to races, will click on those videos and watch them on the trainer, on the treadmill, or something to just kind of get inspired and kind of feel like they're there on race day. So if you haven't checked out the website to even just look at those, I would encourage you to look at those and feel free to share those as well with some of your other athletes that are doing similar races. And we also have information on our training camps, swim camp, and triathlon camps that we start next month. And then you can also find information on training plans as well as straight up individual coaching. So it is your one-stop shop for all things Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast.
Yep. Speaking of, I spent a good chunk of my weekend. Actually, I wanted to just get a little organized because you realize we have 140. This will be 9 podcasts?
149, yeah. Thursdays will be 150.
And there's actually a little bit more in those because they're not all numbered. But I went back and I kind of gathered. I wanted to get organized. So I pulled all the show notes and all the titles and all the links and put together a list, which I sent to you. But the point is, I was kind of blown away, man. I mean, we covered a lot of ground. The last year and a half.
A lot of ground.
I mean, we just, for example, I'm going to throw out one little quick thing. We just did How to Not Suck at Cycling Part 2. Everybody's like, wait, you got a Part 1? Yeah, it's number 28 on the list of iTunes. And then, or whatever you listen to us by. And then right after that was Inside the Mind of a Race Director with Steve Del Monte, was 29. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of stuff in there. So I'm kind of trying to get like a simpler list together and figure out how I can make it cleaner so people can kind of go look at it and say, hey, I'd like to check that out rather than scrolling back or digging around back in the archives, which sometimes can be weird. But maybe I'll categorize them or something. But if you're just joining us, for one of your first times, there's plenty out there.
Yeah, there's a ton of information. There really is. It's funny. There's a ton of information, and sometimes we go over multiple things in different ways. But yeah, there's a ton of useful information, and you can always. I find it's easier to go on my laptop or your desktop computer and go to the iTunes and look it up, and you can see it in actual chronological order. Because taking a look at it on my phone, sometimes it shows up in random order. It's just kind of hard to find, but. Wow. You can look through there, and hey, it's fun to listen to, and go back and you can see how much the podcast has changed since podcast number 1.
Yeah, right. And then I always recommend number 26, which is the 7 deadly sins of triathlete speak, which you guys might find interesting if you haven't listened to it.
That was a good one.
Anyway, yeah. So I was thinking, yeah, man, I need some discipline, man. In my daily routine, which I think you've nailed, right? Discipline equals freedom.
I don't know if I've nailed it, but I think I'm really working hard on it, yeah.
Yeah. Big part of that's Hayden, having a young boy that kind of controls your sleep cycle.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, discipline was like, I made the choice yesterday to I was laying in. So Saturday is usually my lightest day of the week. I try to keep my weekends as either as flexible or workouts as short as possible, so I could spend time with the family. And I try to do my longer stuff during the week. And so like that for example, that meant like a 2.5 hour trainer ride on Friday, and then a run. And then so Saturday, all I had was a swim. So I swam, and then usually I put Hayden down for naps in the afternoon, and I just laid down with him on Saturday and just relaxed for like 2 hours and didn't do really much of anything. And then Sunday around the same time, I did the same thing again, but I did my long run earlier in the morning. And man, did I want to take a nap with him. Oh man, I was like, man, it was gloomy outside. It was gross. And I still had like an hour and 30-minute bike looming. A solid kind of zone 2 effort. And God, I just laid there thinking, man, I would really like to just lay here. And I could definitely use the excuse of, yeah, but I'm just spending time with Hayden, and this is a good call. I'm going to get dad points. But I was like, he's going to be asleep the entire time. He's not even going to know I'm really here. So I got up and hopped on the trainer, knocked out an hour and 20, took a shower, and then he woke up. So I felt that was a good use of a discipline yesterday, and honestly, even on like Friday when I had a 2.5 hour ride, like I got to the 2:20 mark and I was just kind of easy cooling down. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I could just totally get off right now. What's 10 minutes gonna do?
That's a good question.
But it's for me, it wasn't so much what is this 10 minutes gonna do. It was, what am I going to be able to tell myself when I finish? I did 2.5, even though I just really wanted to quit at 2:20, or that I look at my Garmin and think, you know what, I really want to get off. I know it's probably not a big deal, but I set out to do 2.5, so I'm going to do 2.5. Just because I think, especially like getting closer to race day, is a lot of times is less is more. Do you want to be dialed in? Do you want to, make sure sharp? Sure. But a lot of it is you still want to continue along the path that continue things as you've always been doing them. You always see like a lot of the, either the college teams in the tournament or professional teams, or, when teams are in the Super Bowl, it's like, what are you doing this week? It's different. Nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm not changing anything. We're going to hit the weights on Monday. We're going to do this on Tuesday. We're going to have film on this day. They don't change anything just because it's because of a one-day race. And, a lot of athletes, will do that a week or two before. Like, I can just cut it short because, I'm just kind of tapering. And what's this little bit going to do? It's not really going to help my fitness out. But I think from a mental standpoint, it's that discipline is in knowing what got you there and wanting to just kind of stay in that zone to carry you into race day instead of kind of, going into race day, too fresh, or you've had teams that you'll see a lot of teams in other sports that'll come off like having a bye and they'll have like 2 weeks off. And they come in just with like a lot of rust. Mm-hmm. Or you'll see teams in the NBA playoffs that like sweep their team and then have like a 10 or 12 day layoff, and they come and they play the team that just came off a game, grueling like Game 7 series with like 24 hours rest and on the road, and who wins? The team that just went like the Game 7, because they're still going, they're still firing on all cylinders, and the other team is just kind of rusty. Kind of like out of game speed, they say a lot. And so I think there's just a lot to be said for the mental aspect of it's about finishing things off.
Yeah.
It's about not minimizing, I guess in a way it's like not, I just think there's a lot to be said about not minimizing what may seem like a minimum. And what I mean by that is just like straight follow through. It's like it's the guy that because I saw a guy do this the other day outside in our front yard, goes out and you're doing yard work and you're pulling weeds and you look back and you missed like one, mm-hmm. but you're like, yeah, I'll just get it next time. Like, what's the big deal? My whole yard looks great. Versus the guy that's like, what, I'm gonna pick this piece up. It's about finishing the job.
Yeah.
And the closer you get to race day and in training, it's about finishing it off. Whether it's on like a Saturday or a Sunday where you finish off your week and you're like, yeah, I've already had a good week, or I can just bump it to Monday. It's about finishing. And there's a huge, I think athletes get a huge benefit mentally and then obviously physically too, in just knowing that you're finishing things, that you're seeing things through, you're doing things, you're completing things, and that it matters. And each time you do it, it matters more, and you get more out of it.
I can attest to that, because last night when I painted that, first thing I saw this morning when I got up, I went in the bathroom. I was like, I missed a corner, and I was just bumming, because I went back and I did that exactly. You know how you go around the room and you're like, oh man, I missed that trim, and you go, and I was like so ready to put that paintbrush down, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna go do it. And I get up on the chair and got the edger, and I started painting it, and I got back, and I looked around, and I'm like, yes, I did the room. And I walked this morning, I went in there, and there was a yellow corner that I missed.
Ugh.
So now I've got my brushes everything's put away, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it right after this podcast. Finish it
off.
Knock it down, man. It's a great point, though. I think you're right. I mean, it is about that. When I first started training, I used to go out with Jim and all those guys, and I'll never forget, we went on we did like this crazy 4-hour spin class thing early in the season, and we went through the whole 4 hours, and then we had a brick. I don't know what we were doing back then, but we went out. We had a 30-minute run through the neighborhood, and it was kind of one of my first brick type operations, and we were running around, and we just happened to time it out where we were back at the YMCA where we started, like 25 minutes into the run, and Jim goes, nope, we're not done. So we ran around the block again or something like that, and I just remember thinking, now that is kind of unique, because it was so easy to just walk right back into the lobby. But I felt like it really was a moment that touched me in training and really stuck with me, because it's like, 5 minute, another lap around the block wouldn't have mattered physically. But it made a difference in my psychology. And like we were talking about, them pulling weeds or mowing the lawn or whatever the case may be, it is about that. It's like, man, it's not it's one thing to stick your toe in that water, but it's another thing to actually finish what you set out to do. And I do think that is the difference a lot of times in life.
Well, I think that kind of discipline in general, I think, like when we always talk about in races, like not everything is going to go your way. But it's ultimately always about doing your best to always try to finish. And like in finishing things off doesn't always have to look like best case scenario, because it's not, or things that don't matter, like pulling that last weed or hitting that last corner of touch up in the wall, or my ride was an hour and a half and I just got off at an hour and 25. Like there's a difference in I got off at an hour and 25 because that's all I could squeeze in out of an hour and 30, and then there's I had an hour and a half and I had all day to do it, but I only did an hour and 25 just because. Like the story that you continually tell yourself that that's just enough, or that that's okay, then you're always. I'm a firm believer in that you're either always creating a habit or you're either always breaking a habit. One of the two. You're never really just kind of in the middle. And so like every time you are finishing a workout and making sure you hit the time, you're creating a habit. And that habit is about discipline. It's about finishing things off. It's about being totally committed. Then on the opposite side, if you're always cutting things short, if you're always just choosing to skip, if you're always making excuses, well, guess what? You're also creating a pattern that's going to be hard to break. And these like really in-depth and ingrained patterns and beliefs and mindsets that people carry into races, that's what you're going to be able to fall back on when push comes to shove, and you have to think about doing this or doing that, or not doing this and doing that, or those habits that you've created during training. Because listen, like your race is just another training day. Is it more important because you're racing? Sure. Are you gonna have different expectations? Sure. But you're still doing the same stuff you've done before. None of it's brand new. But if you're going to go into a situation with more, that's going to be higher expectations and it's going to be higher pressure. Well, listen, if you can't follow through and you're always balking at training and you're always cutting things short and you're always looking for the easy way out in training, what do you think you're going to do at a race?
Yeah.
And so it's going into a race confident, knowing that I did everything. Now listen, is every day going to be perfect? Are you going to feel up to every day? No, and I don't expect anybody to. I think it'd be kind of weird if you were. You got good days and you got bad days, but it's on those. It's on the. We always talk about, the 80 and the 10 and the 10. 10% of your workouts are going to feel so easy and so incredible, you're going to want to go pro. The other 10% of the workouts are going to be just so shitty, you're going to think you should retire. Those two are just going to kind of be what they'll be. And it's like the universe and your body, got together and was like, today is just going to be that day. But it's the 80%, the largest chunk, where it's all about effort in decision making. Are you going to put forth the effort, and what decisions are you going to make today to make this training worth it? And are you going to go the distance? Are you going to do exactly what you're supposed to do? That's how you create your habit. And so when you get to a pressure packed situation or a day that means so much, you don't want to be the athlete who always falls short or who always, quote unquote bonks, or never has, the race that they think they're going to have. Because listen, training is like, I know, and we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, train hard, race easy. Like, yeah, do you want to train really hard? Sure. But racing is never easy.
Yeah.
You never get to a race and you think, oh, this day really doesn't mean that much. I'm just going to kind of treat it as this. Like, it just means more. Like, it's going to mean more to me when we head down to Texas and I go race. Like, is it just another train day? Sure. But it's going to mean more. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to look back at mile 20 or mile 30 and think, gosh, like I'm in pain already. And can I hold this? And I want to be able to look back, and I want to be able to look back at more sessions completed that I was fatigued, that produced this or that showed me that, than, the last few rides that I did, I just kind of cut short because I told myself a story that the fitness was already there. Like that was part of the big reason for me. Like this trainer workout I did on Friday, I had a hard, really, really hard main set, and I told myself going into it, it's like, no matter what happens, I'm going to finish this out, because in the past, sometimes it's just difficult. The closer you get, the more real you almost feel the pressure in your training. The closer you get to a big race, mm-hmm. Because we talk about it, like the farther you are from a race, everything. I guess I was thinking about it just on a personal level, in terms of like, you always think that you're kind of capable of this thing, but then the closer you kind of get to actually like almost being able to touch it, mm-hmm. it kind of freaks you out a little bit, and it becomes like real.
Yeah.
It's like for people who, and I was trying to give myself an analogy for it to help kind of better understand and grasp it, but it's for people who get really, really, really starstruck. Like you're a huge fan of, whoever it is, your favorite all-time athlete, and you've never seen him before. You knew they were out there, and you've always admired their work, and you really hope to meet him one day, and all of a sudden you're getting coffee at Starbucks, and you turn around, and there is who's your big sports guy? Jim
Lubinsky.
There he is. You turn around, and there he is.
That happened to me, actually.
Yeah. Well... For me, it would have been probably Magic Johnson.
Okay.
And so you're at Starbucks, you turn and there's your childhood or whatever idol standing there. And they're like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, Robbie Bruce, nice to meet you.
I thought of on that topic, because you know who that happened to me with? Bernie Taupin, who nobody knows who it is, but he wrote the lyrics for all Elton John songs.
Mm-hmm.
grew up loving that. That guy was like the number one meet in my life that I wanted to meet. And I actually met him one day. He had an art show in town here in Nashville. He was in town for his art show, and I was in town I was at that place to meet the old Bernie from like 40 years ago or whatever, 30, 40 years ago, who he was not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the trap a lot of us fall into, especially with like, people have been through their stuff in their prime and that aren't immersed in that particular world anymore. He was an artist at that time, and he was painting. And I went in there and started asking him about like old lyrics that he was like, I don't even remember that song. And it was just such a bummer, man. It was like my all-time, if anybody you wanted to have the dinner, Bernie Taupin was the guy for me. And I think I wrote about this in the blog once, but it was like I went in there completely ridiculous. I wasn't into him as a person, and I was thinking about that later, and it comes down to this. I think because what do you say to somebody like Magic Johnson? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I remember that one play. I mean, it's dumb, right? It's like they've discussed that a zillion times. So how do you approach a celebrity like that? Sorry for the tangent, but it just came up to me.
This is a big tangent.
Well, I mean, it's important, though. I think if you meet somebody you're going to be starstruck with, you got to have something to say. So what you do is you just go up and say, hey, what's been on your mind lately? Or what's going on these days lately? I mean, what are you into right now? Because that takes away the whole, the same question that they've gotten a zillion other times from someone else. Now you care about, like, where their mind is at this moment. It's kind of like being in the moment with them rather than living in the past. Your silly memories that have been bubbling over for 30 years, and now you finally met Magic Johnson. He may want to talk about the Lakers series back in, 70s or 80s or whatever, but I just think it's important, to go into that thing. Anyway, so it was a letdown for me in case, if some of you guys...
I was going to ask, if it was a letdown or not.
Yeah, he kind of bummed me out. But I think it was my fault because he was there for a totally different mindset, totally different reason, and I had to go scratch my 30-year itch. But I don't know how, it's hard not to do that too.
Yeah, that's true. But to roll us back on topic.
We have a topic?
Yeah, well, to where I was going with that is, like if you have these legit hopes, and so let's say, like, for you, example, when you first got into the sport, and you talked about wanting to make a Tacoma before. So what if you woke up like 2 weeks before a race, and you actually woke up and you're like, I not like I hope or I might, but like you looked at yourself in the mirror and you looked back at your training and you look in the mirror and you think, this could actually be real. Mm-hmm. How does your mindset change? Things totally change. Yeah. It becomes more, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of like the closer you get to your race and discipline. It's like, do I have like a huge expectation on this and this and this? I have some, absolutely. Of what I believe I might be capable of. The weather is going to play a huge factor in it, but it's just looking at specifics of my training and then thinking, God, I actually like all those times I've like said things and it's like talking to somebody, you can tell their argument is mostly hope based. I just really hope it's true that this. And then you talk to somebody whose argument is evidence based and it's just so much more concrete, and you just go into it with just a different feeling. And I had that feeling the other day, and I was like, so instead of like hoping my way and hoping I've done enough, like we kind of do, like going into to a race when we're kind of inching on like that taper or not taper, it's like, have we done enough? Yeah, I've probably done enough. I'm probably there. Instead of, I'm going to continue to ensure that I am there. And so I'm gonna stay disciplined and I'm gonna stay focused and I'm gonna hit these numbers, because the last story I want to tell myself about the last ride that I did was I hit all my intervals and I finished it all the way. Mm-hmm. Instead of thinking, oh, well, I'll probably got to look back to like early March or even February, for like your last best ride. You want it to be fresh on your mind. You want it to be fresh, like right there. Like I just did that, and so that's why, discipline again I think is so important regardless of where you are in your training, but especially the closer you get to a race, is that you want those feelings of execution and being crisp and just hitting things and building that confidence in training. You want that to be the last thing you remember. Nobody wants to have their last workout, their last big ride or last big swim or run. Nobody wants that to be shitty. Nor do you want to go out and just cut it halfway short just because you, quote unquote, didn't have it that day. That's the last thing you want to do before you go into a race. So, yeah, I think that the discipline aspect of it is important and cannot be and shouldn't be really overlooked in terms of just like your regular training day, on just making sure that you're always executing, because it's what I think we're talking about the painting is. And not just the execution, the discipline, but the details matter. And the more detailed you are, and the more you take pride in the details, the better chance you have in performing to the level that I think you want to perform.
All right. So when you said that, you wake up in the mirror and you look at yourself and you think, man, I could maybe make Kona. You got 2 weeks to go. Things have been going great. You got a great memory of a good interval ride in your head, and the first thing that came to my mind was how many of us at that point begin this process called self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
We've touched on that. We've touched on it before a little bit, but not really in depth.
Yeah, it's just I was like, man, you're right, because then all of a sudden it becomes, this fear of failure becomes fear of success.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of drives a lot of us. I'm not saying everybody doesn't do it, but I think a large part of people do this because the hardest part of building that solid habit is those last few weeks or those last couple weeks before a race, because you're not done. And we've talked about that too. It's like how the taper can fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot which cast that is, but I'll soon have a list where you can easily look that up. But the taper, for example, if you start letting things slide here and there, and then all of a sudden you're building in excuses and everything like that, and then you kind of lie into yourself a little bit. And that I was going to talk about that too, as far as that when we go out for these rides and it's supposed to be 2:30 and we go 2:20, and then we tell everybody it was 2:30. It's like I do that all the time. I mean, it's like, yeah, I rode 1:17. Yeah, I rode 100 or 1:30 yesterday. It's like I think those are little habits that and I'm putting it on myself because I don't want to say everybody does it. I just hear it a lot. You question. Oh yeah, I went on a 3-hour run yesterday or whatever. It was maybe like 2:28 or something. And you know what I mean? It's like a little thing, but it all comes down to this, like building habits, and I'm not the greatest at it, and I do that kind of stuff all the time. I convinced myself that it was a 2-hour ride, but it was not. It was 1:46, and that last 14 minutes, it matters. Not maybe not just today, but like if every day, if that's sort of how you approach it, it's like no. We came out here to do something, and we're going to finish that. And it is those habits. It is those patterns. And I just can't. I don't know. I can't. I'm totally on board with what you're saying right now, because the details definitely matter when you're closing in on a race. And I think that the details. It's like that calendar flips, and then that particular Monday it says start taper, and then it's like we forget who we are, and we just like, well, it's not gonna matter if I don't swim today, or whatever the case is,
Well, it's like we talked about this before, in that we look at all of our training and always talk about in that. Training and your racing is like you're slowly, creating like a really nice piece of art. And the closer you get to training, and like in the last week or two, it's like the equivalent of you've been taking your paintbrush, you've been creating this, what you hope what you hope is going to be a masterpiece on race day. And so the last 2 weeks is that time to where you've got your brush out and you get up close and you make a small little adjustment here. And then you step back and you look at it. And you think, I could probably, touch up this small little corner just to make it look almost perfect. Mm-hmm. And the person who's dialed in on the details, who really, really, really wants to execute well, who wants to stay disciplined, who wants to follow through, they walk right up to their piece of art and their painting, and they make the adjustment, and then they step back. However, the other person thinks, it's probably good just like it is. Nobody will notice. Mm-hmm. But it's not always about if somebody's going to notice. It's about what you inside will know. And that's often the biggest differentiator between athletes that succeed at the highest level or don't succeed, or reach their full potential or don't, is that anyone else looking on is just going to think you did great, more than likely, because they won't notice, because they won't know. Even if you post all your workouts, even though if everything you've done is out there for the whole world to see and the whole, and on display, they don't know what's going through your mind. They don't know what's going through your heart. They don't know about the decisions you made. But so they might not notice, but it's deep down. It's what you actually know. Did I know I put forth all my effort? Do I know I nailed that last one? Did I take my taper weeks or my peaking that seriously, or did I not? And so, and that's what I think brings down, or brings you to it brings back more confidence. Is what you know, and that internal confidence. Mm-hmm. That we need more of it.
Yeah, that happens in everything. As you're saying that, I started thinking about, there's analogies all over the place. It's like, a band may record an album, and they record all the tracks, but then it has to go through the mixing and then the mastering phase, and those are kind of like the tapers. It's like a lot of times those are the most important tweaks. Like you said, I love that analogy. You have a piece of art, and then how do you turn it into a masterpiece? And I think most of the time it is those final little decisions and efforts that you make after you're done, quote unquote. And that's what it feels like, is we're done training, right? The taper is like, code for start mowing pizza and laying around and resting. But it really is about the fine-tuning at that point. And those fine-tuning actions make the difference. Whether I'm making a video, I get it pretty well where it's at, and then I just... The scrubbing that I do with those things is the stuff that nobody understands, but they're the things I can't live with until it's smoothed over. And and then it goes out to the world. And you're right. It's like if you're in triathlon, nobody's really paying attention. It's not like you're doing this for a customer or, you know what I mean? Like, but, and it's easy for us to kind of mentally build in excuses, and as we go into the race, wasn't what I hoped, but I knew that I shouldn't have, whatever. It's like, but no, try to leave those excuses at home once. That's, I'm not saying this to everyone else. I'm saying this to myself as well, because we've all done it, where we've left things on the table that needed to be cleaned up. Mm-hmm. And it's very zen, man.
It's tough because the more it's one of those balances you have to really argue with. It's like the more reasons you can list for why you want something, or why you want to achieve it, or why it's important, or why you think it can be this, the more excuses you also give yourself the opportunity to take. Mm-hmm.
And dude,
and that's why it's so tough.
Yeah. And we can talk about this in a macro way as far as like the whole training cycle through the taper into the race, but it gets micro too into each workout. And, a lot of times we leave stuff on the table during a workout. And then we finish a workout and we don't recover like the way we should. Even though we know we should, I feel I don't need to do that today. I feel pretty good after this workout. Well,
right.
Those are the times, man, when you need to do it most. It's like you're feeling good. Do your right recovery. Do the right stuff. Drink the right fluids, eat the right foods right then, and then maybe the next time you'll feel good too. It's like we have it's like when you get sick, most people feel like a tendency of, hey, I'm starting to get sick. A lot of people will like start really getting on it then, but others will be like, oh shoot, I'm sick. Now you try to rebound, It's coming back after you're too deep in a hole. It's like that's kind of what the taper is too. It's like staying on top of the wave a little bit instead of falling behind it, because then all of a sudden it's like the first hour of your race or more is sort of like just getting back to where you were instead of starting at the top.
Exactly.
So it's like surfing.
It is like surfing.
Stay on top of that wave.
Stay on top of that wave. But yeah, it's hard. It's an ebb and flow of all year, and with different races, and each race has a different meaning, and you just want to focus on that race and not even look ahead. Because our mind does that too. It runs away from feelings or thoughts of insecurity or that might be uncomfortable, or that's pressure filled, or that causes nervousness or anxiety. And so that's why I believe you also see so many people, right before a big race, also talking about the next race after that, or signing up for a new race. Because it takes away a little bit of the pressure in that anxious distraction that is the looming race on the horizon. Yeah, but see, no matter what happens, I'm gonna have another one. And it's just what's wrong with just this is the only race that matters for me right now. This is it. It's my next one. Your next race is always the most important. Unless you're talking about doing some kind of a race. It's not a filler race, but anytime you're going into an event and actually looking to really race it, then that's where it's different. And so that's why I think that you need just stay focused and think, what, that's all I need to think about right now is this race, and what I need to do to prepare for this race, and why it's important, and to stay focused on this one. And Monday morning that I wake up after said race, well, then I can start thinking about what's next. But right now, it's about what is now, not what is next.
So you've got a 70.3 coming up in what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks from yesterday.
Yeah. So what are you nervous about? Are you nervous about anything, or are you? What's going through your mind? Are just this kind of stuff that we're talking about? Are you particularly anxious about anything?
What am I? I'm not really nervous about anything. I'm more. It's going to be really. Listen. This is the fittest I've ever been. So I can say that with certainty. This is the best shape I've probably ever been in. My swim is good. My bike is as solid as it's ever been. My run is there. And so I just think that the biggest thing that's kind of up in the air, and that's how it is with all races, but especially for Galveston and being this time of year, is going to be the weather. There's a chance it could be 80, sunny, with massive winds, 17 to 30 mile an hour gusts. So that'll play a factor, but I also know that if it's windy for me, it's windy for everybody else. So you have to stick to your numbers. And I feel like I know what I could probably go around time wise if I have a really, really good day with favorable conditions. And if I don't have favorable conditions, then, in the same way with best case scenario, is that, I just need to stick to my plan. And that's what I plan on doing. So sticking to my plan, staying focused in it. So I guess, I'm not really nervous about anything. I'm just more anxious to see what the day is going to yield when we wake up. And then I can go from there. But no, I feel good. I'm healthy, and knock on wood. And I put in some really solid sessions, and just trying to continue to get ready for what may be a very, very hot day for those of us who haven't had any hot weather at all. That'll be the biggest thing. And then on it, honestly, just to see how my body reacts. Is it prepared for the heat, or was it still just not enough? And then just kind of see what happens. So, but hey, I'm ready to go, put the finishing touches on things this week, and see how it goes.
Are you doing any unique hydration techniques? You're just kind of doing your thing. Anything?
The same thing I've always done.
Mm-hmm. What still heat sensitizing to the saunas?
Yeah. And on my ride yesterday, my hour and 20, I did t-shirt and no fan.
Okay.
So which got things pretty cooking. If you do your trainer rides with no fan at all, it can get quite hot. With no wind or breeze to cool you off, you just kind of sit there in your own body core temperature. And so I did that yesterday. Sauna the day before. I'll go swim today. Hit the sauna after for probably 25 minutes. Just keep doing that. Either, and then my runs will probably be on the treadmill with no fan and a long sleeve shirt. Just to kind of get my body to keep hitting on it. So, but
have you ever done a space heater with a fan behind it?
No, I haven't done that. It's not going to be that hot. It's going to be warm for this time of year, but I mean...
incrementally, it'll be different for you because it hasn't been that hot here.
Yeah, it hasn't been even close to hot. We haven't had a day we had one day over 70 in the last 4 months. So yeah, it's not going to be anything close. But it's going to be the same day for everybody. Not unless they've lived in Texas, but I'm just excited to see what I can. The numbers I can execute, and then what that ends up getting me.
Okay, so mentally, you just said you're in the best shape of your life for triathlon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the back of your mind anywhere, is there sort of this I'm in the best shape of my life. What if I don't just crush this thing?
I guess, crush is a relative... is a relative term, I guess.
I get it. But you know what I'm saying. I think that's human to be like, I'm ready to go after this damn thing.
Yeah, I am. I'm ready to go.
Uh-huh.
But no, I don't.
Okay.
Because I think that, I know, it sounds stupid, but and I know what I know.
You know what you know.
And I know that, and I can look back on the past and see results that have gotten me other results, and but no, I think if my training isn't a fluke, and so for some reason, then, for some odd reason or whatever reason it is, my body doesn't shape up, or, or just for some reason has an off day, it doesn't mean that all my training was useless or that I didn't, do my training correctly. It just means I had a bad day. I think we oftentimes make huge judgments and course corrections based on one day versus what the previous 90 days tell us. And it's that you just gotta remind yourself the same thing with training. Like one day you can, wake up and feel like $1 million and run like crap, or you can wake up and think like, I don't know how I'm going to work out today, and then somehow you do and you absolutely demolish it. So you got to look back at those days, as well. And kind of like I mentioned on one of my athletes' training peaks this morning, it was like, don't ever judge a run by the first mile.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
And that goes with everything. It goes with your race season. Don't judge your race season based on your first race. You're always, if you're really, really, truly always trying to get better, then you're just going to keep wanting to figure it out and wanting to get better. And so I'm looking forward to it. Looking to racing. Looking forward to see some friends while we're down there and have a good time. I've worked hard this off season, so I'm ready to put some of that work to good use.
Yeah. So I guess in a nutshell, what you just said is, as well prepared and as trained up as you feel like you are and everything, you're not shoving all your chips over into the middle on this thing. You know what I mean? You're not like, this isn't going to be like the last bet. That's what you're saying. It's like, if you're truly committed to the sport and keep, just want to keep getting better and learning and all that sort of stuff, then that's the case. I mean, you're not like throwing everything in the middle and betting the whole shebang.
Oh, no. No,
yeah.
and I think
that's just a little thing that I think makes sense, because a lot of people do that. I think.
They do, and like even you would only risk that like at the end of the year at your biggest race of the year. You throw all your chips in.
Yeah, but even still, that's dangerous. Not all of them. You got to have a little reserve for the future. You know what I mean?
No, and I don't mean as in like emotionally. I mean like physically. Like in terms of like
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, as an important, sure. But the cool thing is I'll get to, no matter what happens, you're gonna learn a lot from racing. You just learn a lot about yourself, about where you are, about your mental and emotional training, how that's gone, how you're able to handle in race scenarios, and then physically how far you've come. And then listen, like we live in a sport of buts. I race really well, but this. See, even if for some reason let's say I race out of my gourd and have like the perfect race, well then if you're just committed to still getting better, then the first thing you and I are going to talk about on the way home, what can I do to get better?
Oh, you're not going to kick back on the couch with your medals hanging on?
Yeah, you know me, man. I'm big on that. We're going to sit back and we're going to think, or I'm going to talk about, where do you get better? Where can you shave time? What's worked? And then you look to the future and think, if I keep working hard, I wonder what else I could do, So there's always, you just learn a lot. You really do. You learn a lot from racing and about yourself, and every, mentally, physically, and emotionally, you just learn a lot about yourself, and you can take those lessons and apply them to your next training phase. And so that's also the exciting part, is of racing, I think, is figuring things out and either affirming, reaffirming, what you believe and why you believe it, and then going from there.
It's a litmus test, and I think when we look at, we were talking about the March Madness a little bit. I kind of think that's how the better teams approach it. You look like a team like Villanova. I guess they haven't lost 2 consecutive games since 2013 or something crazy. So I just feel like, honestly, they're going about it in a way where, if they lose, it's not the end of the world. They just kind of look at, they regroup and figure out how they're going to get better next game. And I think that's easier said than done, big time.
I agree.
They don't wallow in it and rest on their laurels. They just sort of like keep trying to get better. And you hear that, it's sort of that coach speak thing. But, I think that is usually what makes the difference between champions and non-champions. Quote unquote.
And I think it may also helps them perform better on when the lights are brighter.
Yeah, sure.
Is that they don't feel that pressure because there's either always pressure to get better, or their end result isn't so much we have to do it now. It's we're always working on this.
Yeah, because if we don't win, life's over is not really their philosophy.
Yeah, but we talked about this a little bit when we had lunch on Friday. I think you'll continue to see that trend in NCAA tournament and with teams that, kind of like Kentucky, who we did say they would choke, and they did. But always have one and doneers. They're there for a year and then leave. Is that the pressure? Yeah, they all feel pressure. You all want to win, sure. But when it comes time to like the way they process things and their mindset and how they approach like the longevity and the sustainability of what they are invested in, I have to believe that their outlook is different, because it's not, unless you're a senior at a program, it's not over. You wake up the next day, you go to the gym, you go back to the same thing for the same university and the same coach and try to get better, versus the other way that it would look for athletes that are, the one and doners or the bucket listers. It's not the pressure is a different kind of pressure. It's that I want to succeed because I want to get better, not I have to do it all now because I won't have a chance tomorrow. And that's different.
It's a lot different.
Sorry.
All right, crushingiron.com. Oh, we've had a pretty good influx of new people in the closed group. Crushing Iron Group is the search phrase on Facebook. Come on in, introduce yourself, meet some people for upcoming races. It's always great when you can kind of connect with some people and meet them at a race, especially if you're going alone or with, kind of just venturing into a new world by yourself. It's nice to have a couple people around to be able to shoot the shit with the day before and hang out with and kind of go to dinner with, and it calms your nerves and makes it just much more enjoyable. As we mentioned, we will be down at Texas 70.3.
Yep. And
we will be at Chattanooga 70.3 racing. Everyone will be there. A lot of people from the group, 50 plus. So yeah, also we have, like I said, 148 or 49 podcasts. We have a tab on crushingiron.com. It's called Pledge. You can donate to the podcast directly with no interference. It's pretty simple. PayPal or credit card or whatever, and we appreciate that. We're gonna, we put out almost 150 podcasts, and we're gonna keep doing it every Monday and Thursday. And there's a lot of good info in there. If you've learned some stuff and feel like it's been worthwhile, shoot us a bone.
Shoot us a bone. All right.
What is it? To throw us a bone?
That means,
throw us
go
a bone.
For it. Yeah.
Man, I am just like Yogi Berra sometimes.
Explicit lyrics on this one. Yeah, we're gonna go. There's that color commentating. Lots of color.
Yeah. All right then. What else? Camps, coaching. If you want coaching, if you like what Coach is saying, and I know a lot of you do.
Yeah. Then toss a bone.
Toss him a bone. C26coach@gmail.com. I am at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any questions, thoughts, whatever, let it fly.
Let the bones fly.
We've got coaching information on crushingiron.com. All the pricing's there. Everything's there. Transparent as can be for the people.
For the people. For the people.
It's always for the people. What can we do to make life better for our athletes today? And now, that said, I'm going to go back to painting.
All right. Enjoy.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast. We hope to talk with you soon.
Sounds good. See you, dude.
All right, man. See you.